Alright, welcome back. Fungi and bacteria will be the next, fungi, not bacteria, will be the next topic that we're going to revise. Alright, so this is a revision of what fungi is all about. Now, there are several types of fungi that you would need to be familiar with. Mold is one. Normally, mold grows on walls, right? Grows on rocks. They are very small, and you can only see that uh, 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 the surface that it is covering changing color, but it's very hard for you to draw how the individual mold structures look like. Yeah, that small. Mold also grow on bread, and bread mold is quite a common example in a lot of exam questions. All right. And then there's mushrooms. Mushrooms are some of them are edible, but most of them are not. So if you see mushrooms out in the wild, do not pick them up because they might be just poisonous to you. But some mushrooms that are grown in farms, the farmers know that they are edible, and that's what those are the things that we would normally buy to eat, put on pizzas, make into soup, and so on. Mushrooms are fungi, right? And they come in many shapes and sizes, many colors too, and they look very pretty, some of them. Okay. And then there's also toadstools. They also look similar to mushrooms. Normally toadstools are more brightly colored. I'm not going to show you any photos because of copyright issues, but just remember that mushrooms, toadstools, and mold fungi. The fourth common type of fungi that is normally being asked in exams and being covered in textbooks and so on are yeast. Yeast is a microorganism. You can't see yeast with your naked eye. You can see the yeast in powder form, but those are a lot of yeast together. Individual yeast cell, you have to actually use a microscope to look at them, and yeast is also a type of fungi. So if you can remember these four for a start, it would be good. Okay, so mold, mushrooms, toadstools, and yeast. All right, these are the common type of fungi that we would normally use in the textbooks, in the activity books, and in the exam questions. Now, the important thing to note is that fungi are not plants. They cannot make their own food. Okay, plants, as we know, have chlorophyll and chloroplast. They are green because they are filled with chlorophyll, which is green in color. And the plants can make its own food using carbon dioxide in the air, sunlight, and water from the roots to make food. Fungi are not plants. They cannot make their own food. They have to rely on other organisms to get their food. So how do they feed? They feed on plants and animals, other living things, and these other living things are usually dead when the fungi, uh, get the food from them, or obtain their food from, or sometimes these living things can still be alive when the fungi actually feast on them. Okay, obtain their food from them. Okay, so fungi do not make its own food. Most fungi get the food from animal waste and dead matter. Though there are some fungi that also attack living organisms, but they don't make their own food. They have to get their food from other organisms. Okay, that's a very important thing to note. Now we know that fungi also reproduce through spores. And this is a typical question on how for you to name the parts of a fungi. So we know that this part here, number one, is the cap. Okay, the cap is just the top part of the mushroom. This is an example of a mushroom. Two are the gills. This is not the same as the gills of the fish, though it's called the same thing because it is. You might have, it does look similar, but the gills of a fish are used to breathe, for the fish to breathe by taking in dissolved oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. Whereas the gills of the fungi is really to store spores, right? Contains the spores of the fungi, and uh, when the mushrooms are ready to reproduce, the spores will be released from the gills. Okay, 3 and 4 is part of the stalk, right, of the fungi or of the mushrooms. Okay, so this is a very simple question. I'm not gonna spend more time explaining it. Just note that fungi are not plants. They have to get their food elsewhere, from other living organisms. You remember that fungi also, what do you call that, reproduce using spores. They don't lay eggs. They don't give birth to the young alive. Neither do they reproduce seeds. So they do, as a living thing, it does have to reproduce, but it reproduces through spores, right? Now, the other group of organisms that reproduce through spores are ferns, but ferns are plants. So just remember, two groups of organisms reproduce by spores are ferns, which belongs to the plant family, and fungi, which are not plants, right? Now, again, do not repeat. Please repeat and replay the video if you didn't understand my explanation. Remember to listen actively, take notes in your journal, draw a mind map if you have to, and so on. Okay. Send me your questions through email if you still do not understand, and if you have, if I notice that there are a lot of similar questions from you, I will go through it in class. I will respond in class, and if you can, write your comments below under this video in my YouTube channel, so that I know that you've seen this video and that you've understood it. Okay, Ken, thank you very much.